In the NFL, size and speed are not everything, especially at wide receiver. We've seen all-time outliers like Anquan Bolden have an all-time great career despite running a 4.8 in the 40-yard dash. Steve Smith had a Hall of Fame career despite being undersized compared to positional standards at the time he first came into the league. And this year at the Combine, we saw the wrong kind of outlier. Tez Johnson, wide receiver prospect out of Oregon that I really like a lot. He profiles a lot like Tank Dell. But the Combine was not friendly to him. He weighed in at 154 pounds at 5'10", and I was like, oh no. Oh my goodness. You can't be the lightest player in NFL history and then end up following that up with a 4.5 540 and a 4.5 140 as well. If you are going to be that light, you got to be a speed demon. You at least got to run 4.31. The only player in the league right now that compares similarly to Tez Johnson from a size standpoint is Kevontae Turpin, the wide receiver and kick returner for the Dallas Cowboys. He's undersized, and he also is 153 pounds, 154 pounds, but yet he ran a 4.31 at the NFL Combine a few years ago. He's one of the fastest players in the league. That's why he's been an all-pro selection as a special teamer. And that's how he's been able to get on the field. He's been really explosive at generating big plays when he has played on offense for the Cowboys at receiver. Tez Johnson, speed is not really a huge part of his game. He's more of somebody that's more agile, more quick than he is fast. And the issue with having that kind of skill set is it doesn't get you that far in the NFL. And I'm not saying that Tez Johnson is going to be a bad player at the next level, but he is the ultimate outlier in terms of being the lightest player and the slowest player to be under 160 pounds. That's not the kind of history that you want to be known for. And if speed isn't a big part of his game and he's going to be primarily operating out of the slot, you know, how are you going to be able to be an effective deep threat if you're not that fast and you have to win underneath with 5-7 yard routes? You're going to get broken in half if you take just one big hit from a guy like a Bobby Wagner or a Fred Warner. With Tez Johnson being 154 pounds and the average defensive back in the NFL weighing anywhere from 175 to 180 pounds, he's at like a 20-25 pound disadvantage. And that doesn't even include the average weight that the starting linebacker comes in at, which is around 230, 235. Yes, with the rule changes that the league has had over these last couple of years, favoring more smaller players like Tank Dell, you know, you still have to have a little bit of meat on your bones to last the entirety of an NFL season. Hell, a few years ago, Tank Dell is my wide receiver 2 behind Zay Flowers. And the big pushback that I got from that is his durability concerns. Was he going to be able to hold up at that size? Now it's like, you know, you could be the smallest player and be more durable than somebody that's built like DK Metcalf. And yet, you know, the people who were the proponents of Tank Dell, who were concerned about his durability, they somewhat were proven right. Because his 2 years in the league, he's had 2 straight season-ending injuries. Now, the injuries were a little bit fluky. They were like freak injuries. You know, his fibula got broke on the goal line when he was blocking. And then what are the odds that your offensive coordinator calls a play with a bad route combination with your fellow teammate crashing in and breaking your leg? You know, those were freak injuries, but the durability concerns still held true. And with Tez Johnson being 5'10", 154 pounds, how many hits throughout the season can his body sustain until he eventually ends up having to miss time? You know, his lack of size and his underwhelming 40 time costing him millions at the Combine. The average contract for a mid-round selection, anywhere between rounds 2 to probably round 4, you're getting around $1 million a year on average. But once you become a day 3 pick, you're getting less than $1 million. You know, Brock Purdy has been one of the biggest values or one of the greatest values at quarterback in recent memory because the 49ers are getting top 12 or better quarterback play out of a guy who's the cheapest top 12 quarterback in the league, which allows you to have so much flexibility. But for a guy like Tez Johnson, though, I expected him to be a second, third round pick. And for him to be this light and to run as slow as what he did, there's a chance that maybe he goes undrafted. Now, I doubt that because the good thing is about all of this, there's a 99.9% chance he ends up landing with the Denver Broncos. Why is this important? Why does Tez Johnson landing with the Denver Broncos after a poor combine performance help his chances of having a successful NFL career? Bo Nix is his brother. Not his blood brother, but, you know, Tez Johnson used to live with Bo Nix. And they have a great relationship. And I'm pretty certain that Bo Nix is going to make sure that Tez Johnson ends up being a Denver Bronco. And it would have been incredibly difficult to make sure that happened if Tez Johnson would have just balled out at the combine. Then you don't really know when you would have been able to get him. Now, there's a really great chance that Tez Johnson is going to be on the board come round 6, round 7. He falls to the Broncos. Not only does he have the benefit of playing with the quarterback that he has a good chemistry and rapport with, but he also falls in the hands of one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of this game. If you're going to be an all-time outlier at your position, you have to go to an all-time offensive-minded coach that can find a way to put you in the right situation to maximize your skill set. What Tez Johnson does well is he's an incredible route runner. He is really precise with his cuts. He's pretty good after the catch. He has a good amount of wiggle to break out of tackles. I don't know how many tackles can he break out at the NFL level of guys being bigger, faster, and stronger, taking better pursuit angles, but I'm not writing off Tez Johnson just because he had a poor combine performance. This only helps him because now it's pretty much a guarantee that he's going to be a Denver Bronco, and going to the Broncos was the best thing that could happen for Tez Johnson. And for this to take place, he needed to have a poor combine performance because he would have balled out 9 times out of 10. The Broncos probably don't know where they end up drafting him at. Maybe somebody ends up taking him before they expect him to get drafted. So I feel like Tez Johnson's combine performance was all part of God's plan, and I still believe he can be a productive receiver at the next level. Could he be like a Pro Bowler or All-Pro? I don't know about that, but he can definitely be somebody that can come in and be a good rotational receiver for you. I do like his skill set. You know, hopefully he can add a little bit more weight on his bones. It's crazy to me how a guy like Tez Johnson can go to one of the best programs in America in terms of resources, where you're getting good nutritionists, you got a good diet, you got a good strength and conditioning program, and yet you're only 154 pounds. You would think with everything that Oregon football has, he could have at least been 160. If he was 160 pounds, 163 pounds, I wouldn't have been tripping on the 40 time. But you can't be this light and be this slow. But his pro day is only a few weeks away. He has time to beef up a little bit, improve this 40 time, and to help his draft stock out. But I'm hoping that he goes to the Broncos. I feel that's the best place for him, and that's really where he needs to be. With Bo Nix, with Sean Payton. Hell, if I was him at the combine, I'm telling other teams, hell, if you're worried about my 40, don't draft me. I want to be a Denver Bronco anyway. If I'm going to end up being a day 3 selection at this point, just let me fall to the Broncos. Let me play with my bro.